Hi, welcome to the Success course. My name is Richard Schell. I'm a senior professor here at the Wharton School. I've been here for decades. I've taught many courses. I'm probably best known for teaching courses on negotiation and persuasion. I also teach a course on responsibility. But the course we're going to work on together, the course we're going to do together, is a course that I teach and have taught for 10 years called The Literature of Success. It's really a course on what success means for each individual student who takes it. And we're creating this online experience for you to give you a chance to join us in a Wharton setting. I'm going to be treating this as if you were coming to my office hours. We're going to be talking about all the different elements of success and how we explore that. You'll be getting assessments. You'll be getting some sort of self-analysis tools that will help you understand a little bit more about what this big word success means to you. And as we work together throughout this course, I think you're going to find that I'm going to be asking you to challenge yourself, to think about the values that you really hold, to think about the family of influences that have affected who you are and why you are what you are, and hopefully begin to gather some ideas about what your genuine, heartfelt meaning is for this word success, and then how individually you can go about achieving it in the best way for yourself. We're going to do it through a series of classes on different topics. You'll be doing some work on values. You'll be doing some work on your capabilities and your unique talents. We'll be looking deeply at how people achieve things, what achievement actually means. Be looking in some depth at a word that the culture that we live in thinks a great deal of but doesn't really know much about, and that word is happiness. And then I'm going to be doing what I can to help you to contextualize what we've talked about in a way that you can use, take action on, begin to formulate specific goals on by the end of the class, so that you're beginning to have some clear ideas about who you are, what you do well, and the direction that you ought to take at this stage of your life. So I look forward to working with you. We're sitting, as I said, in my office right here, and this is going to be the place where we handle the whole course. So good luck. Strap your seatbelt in. I think you're going to find it a lot of fun and somewhat challenging, so I look forward to it. This course is going to be a little different than some of the other traditional business school courses that involve analytic skills or leadership methodologies, because this course is almost entirely about you. And you are the best judge of where you are with the questions that the course is going to address. And so one way to take this course and use it would be to just simply look down the list of topics for the different sessions and weeks and click on one that looks like it's especially interesting or timely for you. And just jump right in the middle. And then sample a few and begin to get a sense for the relevance of the material that we'll be talking through and how you can connect to it. You may want to start at the beginning and work for a while on the materials in the order that we put it, but then jump to the end. You may find that you have some urgent questions about something like meaningful work or career, and so go ahead and feel free to click on the parts that have relevance to that question, and you can always come back and get to the other parts another time. Or finally, we've made this course so that it's a coherent, structured experience from beginning to end. And if you simply start at the beginning and work your way through to the end, I think you'll find that the topics build on one another, that they're related in a sequence that makes sense, and you'll find it rewarding to take it in a traditional way, just the way you might take a course on another subject. So I hope you'll feel free to use the course the way it works best for you, because as I said, this course is really about you. A course like this kind of comes up in our curriculum. It's a little novel. Most of the courses at Wharton are very analytic. They're very tools-based. But looking over the curriculum 10 years ago when I created this course, I realized that there was nowhere, not at Wharton, not at the University of Pennsylvania, where a student could go and spend a whole semester thinking about the most important questions that would help them later in life as they encountered different transition moments, what to do next, what to do when they had to move to a new city, what to do when they finished grad school, what to do when they changed careers. And I look back on my own life and realized that over the years I'd picked up some useful experiences and a lot of different knowledge bases to put together a course like this. So I think you're going to find that a course like the course we're going to have together is going to be useful to you in one of several ways. I think first and foremost, I think it'll help you. I think you'll be able to assess yourself, your values, your images of what success means, come to a little more clarity on what's going on in your motivations. If you're a parent or a mentor to others, you might also find this useful as a way of helping you articulate and guide and serve as a sort of coach for other people who are confronting these same questions. So we're going to be doing a bunch of different little self-assessments, exercises to help you think about this subject. And at the end of the day, I think you'll find that just like for many of the students and executives who've taken this, you'll have a few light bulbs go off that should help you guide your way to the future. I teach this course because in my own life, I found, especially in my education, that there wasn't really a single place I could go to learn about how to think about success. Success is a huge, potent word in our culture. Everybody wants more of it, but nobody's really quite sure what it means. And most of the time, when everything's going great, you don't even think about it. You're cruising along and getting things done and enjoying whatever you're doing, and then something happens. You come to the end of a natural course in your life, whether it's the end of a school section or the end of a company that you might be working for, or the end of a period of your life. Your spouse moves, something happens, and you're disrupted. And very often that's when people sort of fall back and they don't have the resources to think carefully, systematically, thoughtfully about what they really ought to do next to bring their life to a more fulfilling place. So that's why I created the course. I think different insights come to different people at different times. I ask my students to write a final paper every year that it's just their thoughts about what their personal views on success are and how they intend to achieve them. But I tell them that the chances are pretty good that if they wrote the same paper 10 years later, they would probably write a different paper. They would have different ideas about who they are at that stage and what they ought to do next, different experiences to build on, different relationships with people that have inspired them and given them role models that they didn't have before. So this is not a course that's going to give you the answers as much as it's going to give you a way for thinking about the question so that you can find your answers. And of course, the question is the big one. What do I mean by the word success? Great. So I'll look forward to seeing you again in a moment when we start our next session. In this session, we're going to talk about 3 truths about success that I hope you'll come to terms with as the course goes along. These are 3 very important things that often people get confused about. So the first is really the most important of the 3. Many people, because they've read books or seen movies about success, have the impression that there is some single secret to success, that if they're only able to uncover it, that it'll answer all their questions, all the problems will be resolved, and that life will be a completely rosy experience from there on. And the truth about success is much more complicated. It's not a secret. It's complicated because the answer to these questions lies within you, not outside you. And I think it's always simpler for we humans if we can just, put ourselves on a quest and then go look for the tallest mountain or the most exotic plant, and then we can say, well, we found it, we're successful. Unfortunately, success is something that you carry with you. There's a wonderful book by an author named Ram Dass. The title of the book is No Matter Where You Go, There You Are. And when it comes to success, I think that's more of the truth than that it's out there someplace. So no secrets. This is all going to be stuff that you find on your own, in yourself, that I think will give you a higher sense of confidence in what it is that you're striving toward. Just to underline that, the second truth is that this is not a quest of discovery as much as it is a quest to recognize the patterns that you already have within you, to recognize the values that you're striving to accomplish. These values may come from your family, they may come from your culture, they may come from a religion, and recognizing them means understanding and finding the familiar, the value of, say, compassion for others. Recognizing that you were taught that, but that you sort of forgot it in your quest to get to the top of the ladder or to cure some dread disease, and you've now get a chance to think and go, well, you know what? I see that value inside me. I now can honor it in a different way, and it doesn't mean you have to stop looking for the cure for the disease. It just means that you bring this value, whatever it might be, compassion's an example, you bring it along with you. It doesn't take any more time to do that. It just brings a deeper understanding to your relationships when you do it. So it's about recognition, not about finding new things you've never thought of. And then the third truth that I hope we'll uncover as the course goes along is that there are no single foolproof techniques that work every time to achieve whatever the success value is that you've decided to embrace. In the How to Succeed market, if you go to any bookstore, go online and look at, Google the word success, you're going to find just boatloads of books on how to succeed, and almost all of them are going to provide this template of one true path. The one true path may be goal setting. The one true path may be social skills. The one true path may be mind power and visualization and the power of your imagination to bring things into reality. Again, all these things may be perfectly relevant and they may be very useful to you, but the chances are pretty high that you're going to use your own unique combination of them with your own unique experiences and capabilities to build on them. And what works for the person who lives next door to you, who needs to learn how to set goals, will not work for you because you already set 200 goals a day, and you're going to be trying to figure out how to relax and focus on 3 goals. So no foolproof techniques every time, but lots of techniques. Your goal is to try to adapt for yourself the tools that will work uniquely well for you to achieve whatever your success goals are. They may be internal goals, they may be external goals, or a combination of the two. I think as the course goes on, you're going to get a richer sense of how those two play against each other and sort of fold in and integrate with each other. So we'll be addressing some of these issues in our next session. When we teach success here at Wharton, one of the things we do is offer the students exercises, mind puzzles, little homework things that allow them to think about their own success values and their own emotions and their own capabilities. And then when we come together, we talk about the different answers people got. In this setting, what we're going to do is offer you the same exercises and then give you a chance to do them, and then I'll come back and I'll be able to share with you some of the range of responses that I've received from these exercises, either in the classroom or in executive sessions with senior executives, or online, where I've got thousands of people who've taken some of these assessments, and that way it'll give you a chance to benchmark your own answers and think about them in light of these other responses. So let's get started with the first one. It's the one we use in the first class here in the Success course at Wharton. I call it the 6 Lives exercise, and it's really very simple. There are 6 short paragraphs, each one telling the story of an individual in a different career setting. And you have to read each of those paragraphs. It's sort of on, if you printed it out, it'd be on one side and the other side of a single piece of paper. And then think about these 6 stories. And then the final part is the part that's going to give us something to work with. I need you to rate the lives from number 1, the most successful life as you see it, to number 6, the least successful life as you see it. And we just try to make it so that each life gets an individual number, so there's no ties allowed. So you're going to be reading these 6 little vignettes, you're going to be thinking about it, and then you're going to rank them. Number 1 is the most successful, down to number 6, the least successful. And then bring your answers to the session where we talk about some of the context for this. And I think you'll begin to see how this helps you access what some of your implicit values are when it comes to this magic word that we're going to be studying, the word success. So let's take a moment, take the exercise, and I'll be back in a second to talk about your results. In this session, we're going to talk about your answers to the 6 Lives exercise. I've taught this in many different contexts to thousands of people, and I've got some data that I can share with you about their results, as well as some perspectives that people have shared with me about their reasons for ranking one life or another, either very high or very low. If you haven't had a chance to do the 6 Lives exercise yet, no worries. Just go on to the next session, and you can come back to this one after you've had a chance to do it. So there are 6 different people profiled here, and I'm just going to talk about each one in turn and share some perspectives on the sort of high and the low, the people who rank this life number 1 or the people who rank it number 6. And if you didn't rank it either one, you just ask yourself whether it was near the top of your list or near the bottom, and there might be some insights that you can gain from this. So the first life on the list is the teacher. The teacher, if you chose the teacher as your number 1 life, I think it often signals a very passionate perspective on being a mentor, being involved in a small setting where you really get to coach people, bring out their excellence. You're involved with people. You're involved in a school where you're coaching bright students to win science prizes, and that sort of perspective feels very satisfying to some people. Sometimes, though, people pick this life last because, as you'll remember in the story, the person who's the teacher has one child who has become estranged from their family. They no longer are in contact. The child doesn't respond to efforts to reach out to them. And it feels like there's a kind of fracture in the home life of this story, and people are very reluctant to endorse that as a successful life. Sometimes the people who point to that factor feel that the teacher has a little bit of incomplete in the sense that they seem to be able to throw themselves at helping others in their work, but then when it comes to their own home life and their own children, they haven't been able to bring that same sense of connection to their home life. The people who, again, pick the life on the high side look at that factor and say, well, it wasn't really the teacher's choice that the child would become disaffiliated, and so they don't count that against them as much. I think with all these lives, what you're going to find is that your own experience tends to color a good deal which one you pick as closer to the top or closer to the bottom. And the idea of a sibling or a child that's no longer involved with the family If your experience with that is very painful, then the chances are that you'll kind of push that one to the bottom. On the other hand, if you know people or even yourself have had a period of your life where you're not reconciled, but then have found a way to get back together again, then I think you are more of a believer in the healing process, and that part of that life feels like it's something that can be solved. So at the very least, if you ranked it high, consider this a sort of signal about your motivations for working in smaller groups to affect the lives of others and to bring out other people's talents. Number 2 life is the banker. The banker is a single woman with a child who has a severe disability. She has no partner in her life, adult partner, and is a dedicated, loyal professional with a rather successful career in wealth management. She has turned her family situation into an asset as she has become a marathon runner. She's used her running to facilitate a sort of a cause for children with disabilities. She wheels her kid with her on her marathon runs in a device that she's gotten specially rigged up and gets publicity for the cause. So people who pick this life number 1 often salute this person's autonomy, her choices. All her friends are saying that she should put her child in a home or in a facility and get on with her life. And her reaction is, no, this is my life. This provides meaning for me. And so you feel the courage of the position that she's taken and her certainty and confidence in it. People who pick this life down near the bottom see this sort of the burden aspect of having a child with a severe disability as a defining characteristic of this person's life as a little too narrow. And they feel like this would not be a life they would choose because it seems she doesn't want to be married. She devoted herself to this one person in her life, and it seems kind of restricted to them. So again, if one of your highest values is loyalty, devotion to family, then this life looks a little more appealing. If you're thinking more about autonomy and a career or a life with lots of options and the ability to travel extensively and so on, this one doesn't look so good. So none of them are the right or the wrong answer. They're just different values that people elicit when they have to answer these questions. So life number 3 is the wealthy investor. Now, among all the lives, the wealthy investor is the one who has, first of all, the most autonomy. The person made a great deal of money on an early investment in their career. They have then been able to turn to investing that money and to providing themselves with the means of carrying out all kinds of hobbies and causes. They love hang gliding. They have lots of travel in their lives, lots of freedom, and then they can even get involved in political causes. So they give some of their money to political causes that they believe in. So they're having a lot of impact on the world around them outside of their little intimate sphere. People who pick this life way down at the bottom, instead of focusing on all the freedom and autonomy, look at this life and say, this person looks lonely. They've been married, it didn't work out, they've never remarried, they have no children, they have no family that's discernible from the story, and so there's this big missing piece for people. Now again, I actually got an email from an MBA student recently who picked this life and said that this life was very appealing to her because freedom is a value that she esteems above all others. She was actually coming to Wharton from a country where freedom was not always an assumption that she could count on. So when she got here, this life felt very appealing. Other people, on the other hand, choose this life at the bottom because no family, lonely, kind of an emotional deficit. Okay, so that's number 3. Moving on to number 4, the stonemason. So in many ways, the stonemason's life is the opposite of the wealthy investor's life. This is a man who has a family, has been married for decades to the same partner, has children, some of whom have gone on to do completely different careers than he has. He builds homes with stone. They've gone on to be lawyers and so on. He describes his life in very almost mystical terms. He sees his day as very much under his control. He has a kind of craftsman's-like ability to just find just the right stone and put it in just the right place. He's built homes for his children, and he can drive through his town and see the homes he's built. And so there's a lot of coherence in this life. And people who pick it near the top are inclined to salute that sort of embrace of family, embrace of craft, embrace of controlling the experience they're having in their life. It's very integrated. People who pick it down near the bottom often see this as a life with very little scale. This person is only affecting their family. They're only affecting a few people in their community with the homes he builds, and they want to have a bigger impact on the world. Plus, there seems to be no recognition outside of this person to his skill. So there's not even an award from Stonemason Weekly that he was Stonemason of the Week. He's just an average guy who builds pretty good homes. So again, if your success values are more oriented toward the family, toward integration, then this one's going to rank very high. If they're oriented more toward impact on others and scale, as well as a sort of autonomy and options, then this one doesn't seem quite as appealing. I did have one executive once comment to me about this life, because in a class I might pick one person who picked it number 1 and they described why they liked it, and then one person who picked it number 6 and they described why they didn't. And it was in a big group, 100 people in the room, and someone had just described the stonemason in rather disparaging terms and why they picked it number 6. And this man stood up in the back of the room, and I think he was from a very strong spiritual background, because he stood and said, the stonemason is having a tremendous effect on society. The stonemason is building a society as he builds his homes, and that he is the foundation for his family. And so this very poetic view of the implications and the symbolism for this life. Anyway, this is one that elicits a lot of different emotions from people when they take it. Life number 5 is the tennis pro. Now, the tennis pro of all of the different lives is the one person that is actually appeared on the cover of a magazine. It's clear that she is a very accomplished professional on the circuit and has been acknowledged and recognized for this very important accomplishment. And is so therefore has this sort of success in the traditional sense, very, very well outlined and defined. She also has a family, partner. They couldn't have children of their own, so she adopted children. She has a little tennis camp that she's running that gives underprivileged kids a chance to experience tennis and learn the skills that come with that. So people who like this life, put it higher, often focus on all those attributes and have a very positive feeling for the combination of things that she's bringing to her life. On the other hand, people who rank it down near the bottom point to other aspects of this vignette, one of which is she complains that she's so busy with her profession that she doesn't have time to be with her kids as much as she would like because she has to be on the road. They see this as maybe a difficulty in her work-life balance. She's not choosing the right priorities. And then, there's a sense, the way the story's written, although it's not explicit, that maybe this person didn't choose tennis. And it could just be that she was the product of a tiger mother or gorilla father household, and they drilled her and drilled her and drilled her when she was a kid, didn't have a choice, she just had to do it. And then she just had an aptitude for it, and she got to be really good at tennis. But the sense that she didn't choose it herself does not appeal to some people. They feel like she's more of a victim, maybe, than a success. So depending on which part of that story resonates with you, you might have picked it higher or lower. The final life of the 6 is the nonprofit executive. The nonprofit executive has got its own unique features. The first is that this person has had a successful career in finance and now has turned it and has gone into a nonprofit environment where they're working for a religious group, a very strong belief system that they have. So they're repurposing their professional skills toward a greater cause. That appeals to some people. In addition, they are now turning their attention to a very important cause in Africa, clean water in villages in rural Africa, and they're about to take their whole family over there and lead the effort to handle this initiative and help others. That feels very appealing to some people who want to have an impact and do good in the world. People who choose this life at the bottom, again, focus on a different part of the story. They see all that, but this person is taking children who, some of whom are in high school, away from their social environments. They don't want to go. He's taking them to Africa anyway with his spouse, and they feel that this is just a time bomb of a family about ready to explode in rural Africa, and not at all something that you would define as successful. So again, depending on your hopes, fears, and fantasies, as well as your experience, you focus on different aspects of this life and either favor it or disfavor it. I had a very interesting experience. I did this exercise with a group up in Boston, and we got through all the lives, and I was calling on people and asking them why they chose one or the other. And a young lady who was in the front row had picked the nonprofit executive as the 6th out of 6 lives. And I said, well, what was the problem for you with this life? And she said very passionately, well, my mother and father were both evangelical ministers. They dragged us everywhere they went. They never cared about us. I would never choose this life for anybody. And everybody was sort of taken with this passion that she spoke with. So these lives are, impossible to judge, of course, because they're very sketchily drawn. And so what you're really doing is reading your life story into each of them. And depending on what aspects of your life story resonate as success values, those are the lives that seem to be the ones that are appealing. Those are the ones for others who fear them and don't choose them. So just for some additional perspective, first, you may not be surprised to know that every single time I give this exercise to any group of people of 20 or more, there is someone in the audience who chooses each of the lives as number 1, and there is someone in that audience who chooses each of those lives as number 6. So this begins to help you see the point that success is not something that has an objective function. This is something you get to choose, and it's your perceptions, your values, your history, your experience, your family that is going to be the foundation for your own vision of what a successful life is, because they all get picked, and people feel equally strongly about each of them. Just one last bit of data for what it's worth is I've given this online to, it's available online, and thousands of people have taken it. And it basically, the results online with that many people taking it have fallen into 3 tranches, 3 sets. The top 2 lives that people pick most often are the teacher and the stonemason, and they're tied. It's not one over the other. So people seem to value the family part, the mission part, the autonomy part in some way that those 2 lives embody. The bottom 2 lives that people pick, and this is a big gap between the top and the bottom, are the wealthy investor and the banker. And I think it's interesting that both of those lives are the ones with the most pared down vision of family. The banker has no family. The banker has one person in their family, but no spouse and no interest in marrying. And the wealthy investor has no children and no spouse and no interest in marrying. So there is a defining feature of the choices people are making, and family seems to be one of the biggest factors that people weigh when they actually give success some deeper thought. And then, of course, the nonprofit executive and the tennis player both occupy the middle zone. But it fascinates me that they're tied. They're basically two at the top, two in the middle, two at the bottom. So your answers are yours. They are valid, and the most important thing is to try to gain some insight about yourself from which ones you picked. I just want to give you one last challenge that I give to my students at the end of this exercise, and it may cause you to think about it differently or not. It depends. But let me give you one last question. Suppose that you died and went to heaven, or whatever afterlife you can imagine, and you went to check into the everlasting life, and the deity there looked on you with compassion and said, well, welcome, but I have one final task for you that you have to do before you're allowed to check in, and that is this. You need to take one of the 6 lives in the 6 lives exercise, and you need to give it to your only child. So the problem you now face is, which of these 6 lives would you endow to your only child, the person you would want the best for, the person that you care the most about? And when I put that question to people, very often as many as half of them, sometimes a little more, change their vote for number 1. People who voted for the stonemason change their vote to the teacher or to the wealthy investor or someone else. People who voted for the wealthy investor change their vote to the nonprofit executive or someone else. And I think the reason that people change, not all do, some people stick with the same vote they had them at the beginning, but the reason they change their vote is because when you're asked to give one of these lives to someone you love who has a life in front of them, it stops being a question of just what's your ideal or what's sort of the perfect picture of success in a theoretical way, and becomes something where you want the person to have options, you want them to have financial security, you want them to be safe, and I think that's a different question, and I think it's a more important one, because inside each of you there is someone who is trying to protect you and make sure that your life works and make sure that you make choices that will allow you to prosper. And you're not just going off and living some life that you think is ideal or has some theoretical properties. You're picking and making choices to sustain you to the next choice point. And so I think it's worth thinking about, because the chances are that your actual theory of success has more to do with this second question, because that will describe more accurately the actual choices that you're making in your life, and not just a theoretical point. So as you contemplate this exercise, and we'll come back to it periodically during the course, you might just come to terms with what your values actually are, what your choices actually are, and don't get lost in the fog of thinking about some perfect world that you could never actually make choices in, make real life choices in. So with that, we've come to the end of our first exercise, and now we're going to dig deeper a little bit into the next session and see what happens to success when you unpack it. When you unpack the word success for the first time, it's like a box, and you open the box and you look inside. The first thing you notice, and you probably noticed this in the 6 lives exercise, because no matter which life you were reading, each of them had these 2 dimensions. So when you open the box and look inside, what you find is 2 boxes inside the box. One, I call one box the outer life, and the other box the inner life. The outer life has to do with achievements, career, recognition, celebrity, respect from others, the roles you play, and the social occupations that you found your way to. And the outer life is what most people think of when they just hear the word success. They think, oh, someone's successful. It means that they are, the president of their bank, or they graduated from college, or they have some sort of invention that they made or something. So the outer life is what the media covers. The outer life is what magazines celebrate. The outer life is what people get awards for. And for that reason, everybody often, not everybody, but people often think that that's all it is. But then there's this conundrum, because if you take an average person on the street and you just ask them randomly, which I sometimes do just because it's my field and I'm trying to kill time in a grocery store line while someone's counting pennies at the very beginning of the line to pay for their fruit salad, I asked somebody, I'm doing a little survey. What do you think success means? And if they're willing to answer the question and they don't think I'm too weird, then they will be almost always inclined to say, well, I don't know. It seems to me like success is happiness. If you're happy, you're successful. And if you ask somebody, what's your goal for your children? Almost all of them would say, well, we just want them to be happy. So on the one hand, you've got this societal point of view of the box of the outer life, where all that we celebrate is achievements and career and position and status. And on the other hand, you have this inner life, the other part, which is what most people resort to when they kind of think about what they really care about. And so there's this contradiction between these two sides of success. And a lot of what we're going to do together in this course, and that you will be trying to resolve in your own life as you go through your life, is reconciling and integrating and balancing the outer life and the inner life, and the credit you give yourself for having a life that is rich in its inner dimensions or highly recognized in its outer dimensions, and what happens between those two. I think it's often the case that we make choices in our lives that favor the outer life, and then we have regrets and second guessing because we've come up short on the inner life. I think it's hard to choose the inner life over the outer life sometimes because it looks so unimportant. But of course, at the end of your life, I think most people are pretty inclined to think that they would not say, gee, I wish I could have another day to be alive so I could work some more. I think they're probably going to be asking themselves for another day so they could be with the people they love for another day. So these two sides of success are going to be with us throughout the course, and how you consider them a big theme in how we're going to analyze, break down, and think about all the different topics that we talk about. So in our next session, we'll be picking up some themes related to everything we've talked about so far. So we've talked about the box that success is, and that inside the box you find two other boxes, the inner life of happiness and fulfillment, and the outer life of career, status, and achievement. But you might ask yourself, how did this box get filled up? Who put it all there? And the most important next layer you have to penetrate as you begin thinking about what success really means to you is the sources of these values. And you immediately confront a very, very important cultural source for the values. And within any given culture, your family will be like a prism that will focus certain aspects of the cultural values that are salient to your families into your sets of assumptions about what you ought to be doing and what counts and what doesn't count, and what will earn you praise or what will earn you disappointment. So culture and family, two really important things, and very difficult to get a grip on. There was a novelist, David Foster Wallace, modern novelist, who gave a commencement address at Kenyon College in 2005, And he told a story that I think illustrates why this is such a difficult subject to get a grip on. And in the story, he said that there was an old fish that was swimming along in the water, and two teenage fish came swimming around and passed him going the other way. And as the two teenage fish went by him, the old fish said to them, "How's the water?" And the two teenage fish were a little upset with being spoken to by a stranger, and they didn't really know what to do, so they just kept swimming. But about 10 yards away, the one teenage fish turned to the other teenage fish and said "Well, what's water?" Now, that question, of course, is the kind of question that teenage fish would have more trouble answering, because the older you get, the more experience you have, the more different life events have happened to you, the more you become aware that you're swimming in your own culture with your own cultural assumptions, and that you are motivated by, impelled by, kind of almost obsessively seeking validation within the cultural and family values that you've been surrounded by your whole life. They are part of you, just the way that your heart is part of your body. So separating yourself from that, getting perspective on that so that you can embrace, modify, reject the cultural and family values that have defined success for you, a very important part of the journey that studying the subject and thinking about success has in store. I was someone who was very, very deeply aware of this at an early age, but almost involuntarily. But it is a big reason why this subject is important to me and why I teach it. I was raised in the military. My father was a general in the Marines. He was moved every year when I was a kid to a different place: France, Hawaii, South Carolina, Newport, Rhode Island. And I was taken as part of our family. I had two older sisters and me. And that was just the world I was in. Every place we moved had a base with a guard, and as far as I knew, everybody lived like that. And so as I grew up, it wasn't a question of whether I was going to go in the military as my career. It was just a question of which military academy I would attend and which service I would pick. So as I got into high school and began thinking about college, I kind of realized I really didn't want to go to either West Point or Annapolis, but I was totally committed to the military as a career. So I ended up making a compromise with my family, and I ended up getting a full military scholarship to another college, not to West Point or Annapolis. So I was signed up. I was in Navy ROTC, and I was on my way to being an officer in the Navy for at least 6 years after I graduated. Everything's normal. I'm in my water, swimming along. And then I was in the Vietnam War era in my college years. And in the junior year of college, everything around me virtually exploded. The United States invaded Cambodia. Campuses all over the country lit up with protests. My own campus had shut down all of its classes. And for the first time in my life, I was actually called to try to take a stand on what I had signed up to do, which at that moment I realized was to go kill Vietnamese people that I had no quarrel with. And I suddenly realized that that was just something I couldn't do. And so I faced a big choice. I realized that my family values were not things that I could endorse in this era, in this context, but I love my family. So I was in a crisis. In the end, I finally decided to become a war resister. I resigned my scholarship, but I had to have a very difficult conversation with my father about my choices. And I had that conversation. He was not angry with me. And in fact, the most upsetting thing about it for me was the fact that he only asked a simple question in my conversation with him. He said, "Richard, are you sure?" And I absolutely could not be sure at the age of 21 and walking away from everything my family had stood for. It wasn't just my dad. My dad's dad had been in the military. My mother's father had been in the military. My older sister had married a career military officer. So I was surrounded by these values. But with him at that moment, I had to be sure. And so I said, yes, I'm sure. And what I didn't know at the time, and what took me over a decade to sort out, was that when you break with your family in this way and walk away from everything that you've been raised with, that they've stood for, you find yourself in a kind of limbo. You essentially cut the narrative cord of your life story, and you're no longer the person that you were. You don't recognize the childhood you had, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that if you don't have a past, it's impossible to recognize and imagine the future. So I finished college. I became a conscientious objector, a pacifist, worked in the ghettos of Washington, D.C. as a social worker. Very, very uncertain about who I was or where I stood, other than that I was still sure I'd made the right choice. But the kind of alienation between me and my own cultural and family values was such that in the end I just left the country. I spent almost 2 years traveling with a backpack, living very close to the ground, working in different places where I could work for free, just to try to, or live for free, try to sort it out. And over those 2 years, I ended up living in monasteries in Sri Lanka and in South Korea. I had some wonderful teachers who introduced me to the actual experience of being myself and the values that I had come to embrace in a much more deep way. And finally, at the age of almost 30, I returned home. My family welcomed me back. I lived in their basement and sold insulation door to door in southwestern Virginia while I tried to figure out what the next thing to do was. And that experience, I think, is a lot of why this course material is so important to me, because I recognized that until I had identified those cultural forces that I was living as a result of and taken control of my own life and my own values and stood up for them, embraced them, presented them to my family. My family loved me irrespective of our differences. I was actually privileged to be with them. My parents, all the way through their lives, was with them each when they died, and felt the deep love that comes when you work on your relationships in your family in important ways. So I feel like sooner or later, one way or the other, people come to confront the values that their families have endowed them with, the values that their culture has endowed them with, and come to terms with those as a very important way station on the journey to what success means. And I feel that way because it's the way it worked for me. I didn't start working at Wharton until I was 37. I was a brand new assistant professor here at that age. So anybody who's watching this who thinks that they're kind of a late bloomer, rest assured that there's still probably plenty of time to sort this out. I genuinely believe it's more important to get this right and to come to terms with who you really are than it is to always be living someone else's life and not be aware of the underlying motivations that are actually powering who you are. So share that story. I think it's important for you to know something about who I am and where I'm coming from. But the course isn't about me. The course is about you. So just understand that the structure of this is designed to help you come to your own realizations and come to terms with your own values so that you can feel on a firm foundation for the decisions you make in the years ahead. So let's take a moment and wrap up where we are and take a look at where we're going next. You've begun your exploration of your own success values, You took a look at the 6 lives and tried to decide which ones you thought were most or least successful. Began to see that inside each of those lives, there was a balance between the outer life of status and achievement and career, and the inner life of happiness, satisfaction, love, family, and where those two parts are meeting and integrating, or whether they're separated. And then we looked at the origins of some of those values in your own cultural understanding, the family values that you were raised on, perhaps spiritual or religious values that you've inherited, and begun to see that there's a moment where you get to stand and examine those values, decide where you stand with respect to them. Do you embrace them? Do you need to modify them? Do you need to reject some part of them in order for you to make progress on your own journey? Where we're going to go next is to look at, in a little more detail, what are the individual ways that you can begin seeing yourself as a success-capable individual, that are not looking out and comparing yourself to others and saying, "Oh, I'm a failure with respect to that person," or "I'm not as good as this role model I have. I'm a failure." But to look inside and see, okay, where do I stand today? Where do I want to invest to make progress for tomorrow, and build on the solid foundation of your capabilities and your interests. So I'll see you in the next session.